Buckle up for what the AV Club is calling a ferociously entertaining, beautifully orchestrated thrill ride, and what the Hollywood Reporter has praised as a menacing supernatural suspenser. Oddity follows Darcy, a self-proclaimed psychic and collector of cursed items, who is in the pursuit of uncovering the truth behind her sister's brutal murder. Convinced that there was more to her murder than people know, Darcy brings out the most dangerous items from her cursed collection to help exact revenge. Own the film critics are deeming the scariest movie of the year. Oddity is now available on DVD and Blu-ray. Order today on Amazon.com.
RH, quer saber como voar no trabalho? É só usar a Flash. Com a Flash, você concentra toda a gestão de pessoas em um único lugar. Faça a admissão dos colaboradores e solicite mais de 8 categorias de benefícios. Ah, e você ainda pode fazer todo o controle de ponto. Conheça o novo onboarding integrado da Flash em flashapp.com.br.
There are places where the world's most gruesome crimes have led to years, decades, and sometimes even centuries of supernatural activity. The victims seemingly reaching out from beyond the grave for justice. Those locations are in Creepy Places, a true crime podcast, and I am your host, John Grills. Join me in these creepy places if you dare, as we dive deep into the epicenter of true terror.
Slashers, huh? What's your favorite scary movie?
Not that one.
And welcome back to Microqueers. It's our sporadic queer horror short roundup. It's a short for a change, Trace. And I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we are discussing Dima Barch's The Power of the Strike, with the very simple logline of one totally fucked up night in a bowling alley.
Yes, not the most helpful of loglines if folks have not actually seen this short.
Yes. So Joe, how would you describe the actual plot of this short?
Okay, so I took a stab at writing this up, so here is a put-together haphazard one. When queer man Alex, who is played by Robert Milan Knorr, wakes up in an abandoned bowling alley, he's wearing an electrified collar around his neck, and he's told by a mysterious voice to perform various tasks. His mission, shoot his high school sexual abuser Rick, played by Grego Bilao, who is tied to a chair in front of him.
Yes, and everyone, so this is going to date the episode, but because shorts can sometimes be hard to track down.
Yeah.
As of this recording, this short is on Screambox as the Bloody Bites episode 6 of season 11, and it also either is or soon will be on Dread Central's YouTube channel and website.
Okay, there we go.
Yes, but I liked this, Joe. I thought from a technical standpoint, this was very impressive. I mean, we got red and blue lights everywhere. We got split screens. We've got some gore in here. Visually, I thought this is very captivating.
Yeah, we're playing with a fair amount of influences. Like, folks, if you didn't gather from the description that I cobbled together, it does have an element of Saw to it. But one of the things that I really liked, and I even introduced this in our notes for this, is it feels like there's a front half of the short where you kind of think you know what's going on. You know, man wakes up, is told to do things, has to decide whether he's going to listen to the voice or be hurt. And then we get to the midway point of the short and everything suddenly flips and it almost becomes a new short. But stylistically, we're keeping the same sort of De Palma, Giallo-esque bisexually lighting. And like nudity, gore, all sorts of fun stuff. So there's plenty on display here.
Well, but I'm glad you mentioned the split narrative, Joe, because this is about a 15-minute short, and I guess I'll ask the question. Do you have a preference between the first half or the second half of this short? Or do you think they're kind of on even ground?
It's almost hard to compare. As I said, the first half to me feels like a fun, low-budget indie version of what, well, it seems ridiculous to say what Saw is.
I was like, Saw was an indie.
Yeah. So think of the spirit of that, right? Where it's very isolated, it's a very simple premise, and then it's all about execution. But then it took me by surprise when suddenly the narrative flips and it becomes almost like a rape revenge film in the back half. And I did quite like that. I think the back half worked a little bit better for me in terms of just surprising me, even though I do think that there are some narrative hurdles.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that because, because of those narrative hurdles, I was more into the first half, even though it's kind of the more conventional part of the film, narratively speaking, of course.
Right.
Also, I will confess, and this is a strictly me thing, I did have some trouble understanding the character number one, who's the voice over the loudspeaker, for the first half, if only because he had a thick accent, and I didn't always think the audio was particularly clear on that speaker.
Okay, yeah, this is interesting because, so as we mentioned, he's being fed directions by someone over a speakerphone. And at certain points in the short, you actually get to hear the person speaking where they are because they're off-site kind of deal. And it's revealed in the back half that they're actually in a car outside of the bowling alley and they're surveying Alex based on video footage, like security cam footage.
Yes.
And I like that we're also playing with that. You know, sometimes our perspective is from Alex himself, like we're getting point of view shots, but then sometimes it's from that security camera footage. But yeah, I'll agree with you. You know, I had the auto-generated closed captions.
So did I.
And I will say, folks, the future is not AI generated because motherfuckers, sometimes those captions are more confusing because they are so completely fucking up the actual words.
Yeah.
So yeah, at a couple of different points, you know, it's not entirely clear what's going on, but I would say it's never too much that it took me out of the short.
No. I just thought some of the audio quality was too muffled in those parts. But okay, so then moving into the second half, because yes, he is told, you know, okay, you got 4 bullets in this gun, kill this person in the bowling alley, and this is a person that did rape you in a bathroom, in high school? Is that what they say?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, folks, obviously, content warning for sexual assault. You do, like, initially, it's almost presented as like, oh, okay, these guys are getting hot and bothered in some kind of, you know, change room or locker room situation. But Alex clearly tries to resist, and this Rick guy basically forces his head onto oral sex is the situation that we're dealing with.
Yes.
And you think, oh, no, okay, this isn't great. But, you know, we get to watch this guy shoot his attacker, so maybe this will be satisfying. But yeah, Alex seems to be resistant to this.
Yes. And so then we move over to our guys outside, number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is our voice over the loudspeaker, played by Nathan William Stearns, and number 2 is a new character played by Alex Lee. Well, number 2 is doing some coke in the car while they are just talking about what they're going to do.
Yeah, so, and I think this is where some of the narrative wheels, I don't want to say fall off because that feels a little bit too strongly worded, but there's definitely a little bit of, okay, so did they want Alex to shoot him, or did they think he was, you know, going to be too much of a pussy and he won't follow through? Because, like, the moment that the short shifts, Alex just goes, oh, fuck this, and shoots this guy with bullet number 2.
Yes, because he wasted bullet number 1, and so he just goes ahead and kills him. And yeah, that's when we shift to these guys, and then as they move back inside the bowling alley, they take Alex and chop off his hand.
Yes, with the baby axe. What am I supposed to do with this beauty axe? I mean, there's a lot more comedy in the back half, too, which I wonder how well this sort of plays with some of the narrative confusion. Like, so what do these guys actually want? You know, they say they're coming in for vengeance or revenge against Rick's death because clearly they were actually in on this? Question mark?
Well, yes, but it seems like Alex was in on it with them because he does tell number 2, like, why'd you cut off my arm or something like that? And so I was confused by everyone's goal in this scenario.
I definitely don't think that Alex is involved in this. I think he's an unwilling player in this. I think he doesn't understand why these two men have come in and taken off his hand when he did what they asked him to do.
Yes, but what they asked him to do was they were basically wanting him to get revenge for himself, but forcing him to do it. So what horse did they have in this race?
Well, okay, so the other element that we haven't talked about is they do mention a Father John, as though they've been put up to this by some kind of religious practice, because number 2 even talks about, like, Jesus is watching you, or Jesus sees everything that you do. So I don't know if this is kind of a homophobic bullying thing, because that's definitely how Alex perceives it. And he does not take kindly to that, because the other part of the backstory that we learn is Alex is no mere victim, and he's not even a simple survivor. Like, he fully bit the penis off of this sexual abuser from high school. So Rick was actually down a dick this whole time.
Yeah.
And then he just takes out these two guys. And we also learn he took out his homophobic mother. All that was left of her was a fucking finger in a fridge.
Which I loved. I love that detail, because she wanted to cut his thumb off so he wouldn't be able to jerk anyone off. So he cut off her thumb in return, which I thought was very clever.
Well, I mean, he cut off her thumb, and that was the only thing left of her that they found. So not even an insinuation that this guy's a multiple murderer by the end of this short.
Yeah. He killed, with his mother, 4 people. But... yeah, so I don't know. Overall, I did like this, but I do think for me it's a kind of a case of style over substance. If only because I do think there's just some, as you said, those hurdles in the back half of it.
Yeah, and part of the problem is that the narrative does have its shortfalls, and I don't think it's a deal breaker. Like, I think I still gave this about a 3.5 because I was so impressed with the style. If you are looking for that concrete narrative, I do think it'll probably be a hurdle, yes. But visually speaking, this is such a calling card. Like, it's never boring because there's always something really exciting happening on screen.
Yes, and I will say that sometimes though, like narrative hurdles in shorts, I can sometimes be a little bit more forgiving of, if only because I'm kind of like, well, but if this ever gets adapted to a feature film, that's something you can explore more, Sure, yeah, like there's ample opportunity in this short to unpack some of this a little bit more. This feels like a representative, here's a segment of what the film could be like. But it also, I do think, works independently as a short. Like, it does have a beginning and an end, and they're pretty concrete. And at the end of the short, when we cut, I think, okay, yeah, that's solid. 16 minutes in and out. If anything, I mean, Dima Barch, to my knowledge, has not done a feature film yet, and he's pretty kind of green in the industry. And so, again, stylistically alone, this was very impressive.
Yeah, like, I think this probably looks a lot more expensive than it actually was, because we should note that this is also a filmmaker who is queer, escaped from Russia so that he could make films that are explicitly queer. And one thing that's really exciting is that he is actually embracing his art, but like, this is full on queerness and good stuff. And yeah, like, the short looks really fucking good. So imagine what happens if you give this guy a budget.
Absolutely. So yeah, let us know what you all thought of this short. But until next time, we can cross out the power of the strike.
Indeed. And cross out microqueers.